let's say they're sending out money and they have a mortgage, right? You have it insured. All of a sudden, they come out and they said, okay, it's a $10,000 roof. We'll give you $10,000 for the roof. What happens next? They have a check. Now what? They're going to Vegas?
Yeah, okay. That's a lot of people wish. So every mortgage company is slightly different, but what people don't realize is when you take out a mortgage and you sign all that paperwork, you are signing and agreeing to certain things. And one of the things you're usually agreeing to is that if at any point in time, there's a requirement to have an insurance policy when you have a mortgage, to protect their vested interest property. And then there also is usually language that talks about if you do file a claim, that they are entitled to have their name on the check. So therefore, they have to sign off on the check, and they'll decide at that point in time what they want to do with the check. So what'll normally happen is a check comes in, you'll usually get a check, it'll have your name and the mortgage company's name on it. You'll go to your bank, whoever the bank who has the mortgage, and then you'll talk to them about whatever procedures are. Some of them have rules where if the check is under $40,000 or $30,000, the mortgage company will just sign their name and they'll give you back the check. And now you can deposit it and get the work done as you see fit. So a lot of the banks will have a threshold and say anything under that, we're just going to sign it. But then if it's over that, or if it's a bank that's just saying, hey, every check we're going to process this way, X way, then this is what they'll usually take the check. They'll have you sign it and say, you need to sign it because we're the mortgage company. We're going to hold the money. So let's say it's $100,000. They hold it. And then they'll tell you, we're holding it. We will pay it out in draws. Once you give us the contractor's contract and we see what the scope of work is going to be, a lot of times they'll ask you for the insurance company's scope of work. So they technically start to become your GC, your general. It's kind of what they start to become, like this consultant on the job. They also say a lot of times that they will pay a down payment to the contractor, and then they'll pay, this amount after, the 1/4 of the job is done, this amount when half the job is done, this amount before the final inspection, and this amount after the inspection. And then a lot of times they'll send a rep to your property to actually go see the property to make sure it had been done before they make the final payment to the contractor. It is very difficult. It is so time consuming. And that is a whole issue people have dealing with their mortgage companies. And we tell them, unfortunately, these are all agreements you've made with the mortgage company. That's why they most time are behaving that way. But I will say that as frustrating as it sounds, there's been a lot of times mortgage companies and that behavior has saved property owners who may get taken advantage of by a contractor by giving them all the money up front because they didn't know any better. So there has been times where a mortgage company withholding that money and having that draw procedure has actually saved the insured in the end. So it's kind of like, a double-edged sword there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's peculiar because you think, oh, just give it to me and I'll do whatever I got to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if you're dealing with $100,000 reno, it's a much bigger situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty intense because I don't think most people know that that's where that.
Well, you would never know until you've been through an insurance claim. It's not something you would have ever known, but you get some people who are getting a check for $250,000 for damage. And unfortunately, even the most honest person who gets a $250,000 check, if it was given to them, depending on what's happening in their life, everything can be falling apart. And they're just like, I'm about to lose, our cars, and I'm just going to use the money for that. And I'm not going to put it towards the house. So that's really the reason why the mortgage company is like, listen, even though we trust our people, let's make sure that we're keeping them on the straight and narrow here, because it is a significant amount of money that comes out of some of these claims sometimes that is really for the remodel, the reconstruction of the home.
Yeah. And to wrap that thought up, let's say you get $100,000. Let's say your mortgage is $200,000. You got a $100,000 claim. They're holding it. And then you decide World War III, you hate the marriage, you're leaving. I don't want this house anymore. Too many bad memories. Kid died in the house. Something terrible, right? And you just say, forget it. I'm done. Would they just use those funds as part of the payoff?
So it's interesting how they'll do it. because every mortgage company is a little bit different, and it all depends on what agent you talk to that day. Because ideally, that money is actually not specifically to go towards the mortgage as much as it go to to reconstruct the house. But I have seen times where you can request that the money that's left in there, that whatever's not used, goes to pay off the mortgage. And there's times the insurance company will say yes. But there are times the insurance company says, whoa, wait, what's the status of the property? Did you actually repair it? And this is money that was saved. Like the insurance company gave you $100,000, you hired your contractor friend, and now you only spent $60,000.
Yeah,
and so there's so if the mortgage company says, okay, well, you actually did repair the property and we inspected it, we'll take that excess money and we'll apply it. Or the insurance company might say, listen, there's $40,000 here, but did you do all the work? And if your answer is no, I didn't, the insurance company could potentially hire and decide they have to bring in their own contractor, or could potentially say, well, now you're in violation of your agreement with us and the mortgage company. We're demanding that you hire somebody to finish the scope of work. That they can also do that. So it's not so easy black and white to go, yes, they can just apply it to your mortgage. It's always great to ask for that, but they can come back and say, actually, this money was supposed to go to repair the house. And therefore, now we're actually taking a financial loss on the home because you have not actually repaired the property. And that's technically in violation of your mortgage.
Okay, perfect. Well, but that's if you don't get a payoff.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.